So this season in Formula 1 is going to be a very interesting one, not only because you can make a genuine case that there will be 4 constructors that are in the shot of winning the F1 Constructors title this year, and about 6 or 7 drivers arguably within those 4 teams that could win the championship in the drivers too, but also because it's the final year of the current regulations and a lot of teams are going to be shifting their focus heavily towards 2026 at the earliest possible opportunity. Now, that is probably the biggest case really when it comes to Aston Martin. No other team really, in my opinion, has relatively so little to lose because they were so bad last year that anything this year would probably not be worse. Famous last words, of course, but in general, that is probably what you would say. So you'd imagine with having that and obviously the new facilities at Silverstone and the likes of Adrian Newey in the team now as well, that their focus will probably be entirely pretty much on 2026. And that is a sentiment that Fernando Alonso seems to be echoing in the quotes that are on here on this article on the F1Chronicle.com, saying that he's not expecting to win again in 2025. Alonso, of course, hasn't won a Grand Prix since 2013, before the vast majority of the Formula 1 grid actually joined the sport. That puts it into perspective. That was 12 years ago now, guys, which makes me feel pretty old, not gonna lie. But not as old as Fernando Alonso, who's over 40 now, of course, but still, in my opinion, one of the best drivers on the grid. But even he says that he's not going to be able to win this year coming up. Let's have a look at the quotes on here, guys. Full article on the F1Chronicle.com, as always. Fernando Alonso has played down the prospect of a big step forward for Aston Martin in 2025. The Spaniard has contested an incredible 21 full seasons in F1, and by the end of his current contract, he will be 45 years old. Alonso, who is currently 43, says his competitive desire is as strong as ever. Even now, after more than 20 years, if I go back to a karting track and I look at the times and I'm half a tenth behind the fastest one, I still have the same inner rage, the same frustration, the same anger, he told DAZN. I might not even eat dinner that night. However, he openly admits that he is feeling the effects of age. I think that over time you have to change and adapt your body, said the 2-time world champion. You can't eat the same foods at 40 as what you did at 20. You don't have the same muscle mass at 40 than when you did at 20. So for my diet, I do a little bit more research with nutritionists, following a bit of the vegetarian way, but I still feel very strong. Alonso also admits he ended the 2024 season in quite poor physical shape. The end of the year was difficult for me, he confirmed. I had an intestinal infection, fever, antibiotics, and after recovering internally, I was beaten up in Brazil in the muscles of the back, in the bones of the collarbone and the shoulder from the jumping of the car. If you remember, the track was actually resurfaced as well, and a lot of people were complaining about how poor it was. And we did an article, did a video and an article, I should say, a little bit ago on the F1 Chronicle, I think towards the back end of last year, just after Abu Dhabi, where Alonso actually admitted that he was literally driving injured. I think it was his shoulder or something like that he said was causing him pain, which, man, honestly, my hat is off to you. You know, over 40 years old, still battling on like the Spanish samurai. And yes, I'm using that term again. I love using that term. You guys have pointed it out in the comments. I do like calling him the Spanish samurai because that was a true warrior move. Let's be real here, guys. He is excited about the looming arrival in March of Adrian Newey at Aston Martin, but plays down the impact the renowned technical genius can have at least in 2025. Certainly not in 2025, said Alonso when asked if he could be a race winner and title contender again. The cars will not be the same as last year, and it will be physically and practically impossible for us to make such a big jump. Hopefully it'll be better than in 24, but we will not win the championship. There are changes coming in the regulations, and Adrian Newey will start working on the 26 project from April. Alonso, though, says he is used to battling with inferior equipment. I only had one kart when I was competing as a kid, he said, and a set of dry tyres that my father had made the kart with. In the Asturias, I think that's the region in Spain that he's from, it rains a lot when the other kids put on rain tyres. I raced with dry tyres because we didn't have any money. I always hear this actually about Alonso, that he's one of a few Formula One drivers that's working class, the likes of him and Sir Lewis Hamilton. I think Yuki Tsunoda actually as well. I think they're one of the few, some of the few working class actual drivers. The vast majority come from really, really rich families. Again, not by like billionaire Stroll standards, there's a few of those around, but not many. But compared to the average person on the street, the vast majority of Formula One drivers come from a very rich family. Even Hamilton, his dad Anthony was a really well-off guy. I would still say he was working class because he worked for a living. He had to work to own his house and stuff, but there we go. And this carries over to this day. We have the budget for tyres, but we don't have Ferrari's wings or McLaren's underbody. So the story of my life is a bit about competing with weapons that are a bit inferior to the others and adapting. As for whether he keeps racing in 26 and beyond, Alonso suggests that it depends on how the first Adrian Newey designed Aston Martin fares. Hopefully I can enjoy more podiums, some victories and fight for the championship, said Alonso, but I know that 2026 is a year that is a mystery to everyone. Hopefully it will fall in our favour, but we just don't know. And that is the beauty of Formula One in 2026. It's a complete reset. We have no idea how these guys are going to do. I am really looking forward to it, and I'm also looking forward to this year coming up as well on top of that. I think Alonso's absolutely fair in his assessment. I don't think Aston Martin will be good enough to get wins. They definitely won't be good enough for a championship. Maybe podiums. If they get a podium this year, I think that is real progress because they didn't get a single podium last year. I think that would be a massive step up. They will want to stay 5th in the Constructors' Championship. If they can do that, regardless of how many points they get, if they can fend off the likes of Alpine and Haas and Williams this year, even if they stay behind those leading 4, which I think they will. Mercedes, McLaren, Ferrari, Red Bull, they all had a massive performance advantage over Aston Martin, particularly at the end of the season. So I think if they can do that, it will be a successful season in the circumstances. I expect Newey will have some kind of interest on the car, some kind of performance improvements there, but like Alonso said, the vast majority of his time and effort will be on the 26 car, because they could have Adrian Newey working on this car in 25 the whole year, and by the end of it, maybe they'll be able to win a race at the end of the season, but it won't be enough to win a championship. And that is what Aston Martin want to do. That's what all the top teams want to do. That is what Lawrence Stroll wants to do, and he will stop at nothing in his pursuit of that. Now, whether Alonso continues in F1 for 2027 or after is another matter. There's a lot of rumours about Max Verstappen going to Aston Martin one day in a potential $1 billion. Yes, $1 billion for those who have seen the film there. I hope you get the reference, which is an extortionate figure, which I think is a bit blown out of proportion. But I can see Aston Martin going for Max Verstappen one day, and then Alonso, maybe he goes back to Alpine. Maybe he reunites with Flavio Briatore, get the dream team back together. I don't know, but honestly, I could genuinely see Alonso keeping racing in F1 after his current contract. I think it's more likely that he will retire from F1. I think he will probably try and go to IndyCar and win the Indy 500. He's won Le Mans, hasn't he? And he's won Monaco. I know he's won Monaco. 2007 he did that, I believe. And 2006, I think he won it for Renault as well back in the day. So, yeah, I think he'll probably try and get the Triple Crown while he's still able to. Because when you're in mid-40s, you're kind of on the way out at that point, even if you're a superhuman like Alonso. Your biology does catch up with you eventually. But yeah, what do you guys think? Aston Martin, where are they going to finish in the Constructors' Championship this season coming up? 5th? 4th? Worse? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And of course, keep it subscribed to the F1Chronicle.com to see much more content on the world of Formula One just like this. Like, share, comment, subscribe, ring the bell as well, and we'll see you soon, guys. Have a good one.